Continuing where we left off, it says like this. These are again the Midos Tavis that are like it says in Rambam, the Midos that a person has to behave. Okay, the mitzvah is v'after re'echo kamecha, which means you have an obligation biblically to love every single Jew as much as you love yourself. Now it's interesting, Shad, the Poskim discussed, does that refer only to Jews or does it refer to Goyim also? So there are Poskim that say, they prove from different places, that Reyacha also means a Goy. But most people say that the mitzvah of V'ahavta Reyacha Kamecha is primarily for a Jew because a Jew is Reyacha. What does it mean, loving another Jew? You have to speak good about him, you have to have pity on his money. Just like you care about your own money, you have to care about somebody else's money. Just like you want your own respect, you have to respect somebody else. To embarrass somebody, only good things. You have to, sometimes you can be happy with somebody else's downfall. The Gemara says you have no chelik in olam haba. Okay, now, so the Poskim write an interesting thing about this. You have to be good with people. So sometimes when you give a person a title that they don't deserve, so the question is, are you allowed to, or to change it a little bit? Are you allowed to compliment somebody with a compliment they don't have? Flattery. No, flattery is not. Flattery is different. But you have to talk about the milas, and it's not chanufa when it comes. In other words, like this: if flattery is the person's a bad person and you flatter him, this is what the Poskim write. A good person that you flatter, that there's nothing wrong with. So you're allowed to do it because it says you have to be nice with people. Where it is a big problem, we mentioned this not a while ago, when you make a eulogy for somebody, halacha says you have to be very careful, especially in Kabbalah, but in halacha also it says, you have to be very careful not to speak about the person false things that they didn't do. You have to be very careful at a eulogy of a person to speak the truth. Because if, God forbid, you speak greater about the person than the person actually was, it's detrimental for them in the din l'mayla. Because then when the Bezdin Shalmaila analyzes this person, they judge him, they say, not only were you in this, you even cheated people, you misguided people to think that you're something you're not. You tricked people. So that makes it even worse for the person. I'm not saying that's the only reason, that's one of the reasons why in Chabad we don't have eulogies at funerals. That's one of the reasons. Another reason it says, if the dead person in the box would hear all eulogies, if he would be able to, he'd get up and say, be quiet already, just put me in the ground. Because Haka Chainik. Okay, so, but you're allowed to call somebody like Harav if he's not. You're allowed to, whatever it is, you're allowed to praise them more than they actually are, as long as the person's a decent person, you're allowed to do it. Now, if you hate another Jew in your heart, you transgress a negative commandment. It says, you're not allowed to hate somebody in your heart. Now, therefore, what happens if somebody did something bad to you? You shouldn't keep it inside your heart and then just create animosity and more hatred to the person. You should tell him, why did you do it? Talk it out. Why did you do it to me? I'm upset with him. Why did you do it out? First of all, it might be the person will explain to you why he did it, that it's acceptable reason. And ideally, the Rebbe says in Shulchan Aruch, the best thing, not even to talk it out with the person, to forgive him with your whole heart and never hold a grudge in your heart and to 100% forgive him. That's the ideal situation what halacha says. That there's nothing greater than that. But like this, you're supposed to say, why did you do it? And therefore, if the person asks forgiveness, there's another din in Hilchos Kippur, the Alter brings on Hilchos Masamaton. If somebody asks you forgiveness, you should right away forgive them, no matter what. And he gets the tshuva, the Alter brings down the Gemara in Bava Kama that says, "Hakutei yad chaveirei." Even if somebody, God forbid, chops off your hand, you should forgive him right away. As long as they mean it, you should forgive them right away.
Then you cannot forgive.
Because it says, because it says after Avimelech took Sarah, that whole story, so it says Avimelech regretted what he did. So the pasuk says, "Va'Avraham, vayispal Avram el Elokim." Avram davened to Hashem to forgive Avimelech, and he did. So even then he did. Okay, so he says like this: you have to love everybody. The only ones you're allowed to hate, halacha says, and Al Rebbe also quotes this in Tanya in Perek Lamed Beis, when he speaks about Avis Yisrael, he says, "V'leyomer David HaMelech tachlis sinas hanesim," that they hated them with the ultimate hatred. How can you hate anybody? So the Al Rebbe says what it says, you're allowed to hate apikursim. People that don't believe in Torah Shabbal Peh, people don't believe in Torah, people don't believe in God, those people halachically are allowed to hate. But even then, it says you should admonish them because they probably don't believe in it because they never learned. So ideally, you should go teach them. And now it says like this: why? What's the reason you have to recha kameicha? So here in Kitzur it says, because I created that person. I created him. So if you hate somebody, that means you don't like something Hashem made. So you don't like Hashem. Like Al Rebbe says that Avos Yisrael is the vehicle to love Hashem. Why? Because if you really love somebody, you love their family, you love who they love. It's not only them, you love all the people. So therefore, Al Rebbe says Hashem loves every single Jew. So if you don't love every single Jew, that means you don't love Hashem really. Because if you really love Hashem, you would love all those that Hashem loves. In a deeper sense, by the way, you'll have to re'echa kamecha. Chassidus interprets it to mean, simply the pasuk means, if you take an English chumash, love your neighbor as yourself. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe alludes to it, in other places in Chassidus it elaborates more on it. You'll have to re'echa kamecha is like this. You have to love your friend. Kamecha, because he is like you. Not like you, he is you. So what does it mean? So it says, the Tzemach Tzedek explains, and the Rebbe elaborates on this in the Kuntas Avos Yisrael. He says like this: all neshamas came from Adam Rishon. All Jewish neshamas were included in Adam Rishon. The heads of the Yidden were in the head of Adam Rishon. The hands, the foot, the heels. So every neshama is included in Adam Rishon. So we are actually one person. We're all the same. So therefore, just like the right hand will never get angry at the left hand, and the right hand won't get angry at the left foot, because it's you. What are you going to get angry at them? And I always give the mashal, a very simple mashal. A guy loves to ski, let's say. He really loves to ski. And he has a ski vacation coming up, and the whole year he's waiting for the ski vacation. And a day before the vacation, he trips on himself. Not God forbid somebody else, will blame somebody else. He trips on himself, and God forbid he breaks his foot, and now he can't go skiing. That means the whole year's longing is now kaput. So what do you think? He's going to stop beating up his foot. The hand is going to beat up the foot because look what you did. Because of you, I can't go on the skiing vacation. It's ridiculous. It's you. If it's you, you don't hate yourself. Even people that hate them, say they hate themselves, those are the ones that really love themselves. Just psychologically. People that say they hate themselves are really the ones that love themselves. So therefore it says like this: you hate what the person does. You don't hate the person. And this, the mashal, is a very simple mashal. If somebody has a child, the normal parents love their children tremendously. When the child does something wrong, they're upset, they're angry. They don't hate the child. They hate what the child did. But they really love the child. The same thing when you look at another Yid, you love the Yid, you don't like what they did. And that's the mitzvah after Recha Kamecha. You hate what they did, but you don't hate the person. In fact, there's another halacha. It says a person should not ask Hashem to punish another person. And if you do, it says you get punished first. If you curse somebody else, so to speak. Again, primarily refers to Yidden, but the Goy is also a creation of Hashem, not to the same level. But the Goy is a creation of Hashem, so why should a person hate a Goy? Ma'aseh Yodel is per Hashem made every single person. Hashem made every single creation. Right? A person should not hate anything in the world. I'm not talking about evil. A person should not hate any creation, anything in the world, because it's something Hashem made. So why are you destroying it? Why are you hating it? Why Hashem made it? You're supposed to love it. If it's evil, it's a different story, because you have to hate evil. Or hate what the person does, but not the person in any way. Okay, next halacha is a long halacha. We'll just start it. If somebody sees that his friend sins, or he goes in a not such a good path, you have a mitzvah to bring him back to the right path. And you tell him that he sinned and it's no good and he should repent and he should... But when you admonish somebody, the chatchila, it says you have to do it privately, not to embarrass the person. The only time, by the way, it says in halacha, if you admonish somebody and they don't listen to you, then you're allowed to do it in public, only refers to a teacher with students. A Rebbe with a teacher, students, then you're allowed to, after you tried talking to them privately and they didn't hear, they don't listen, then you're allowed to do it publicly, even if it means shaming them. But that's not in all cases either. Okay, so there's a mitzvah in the Torah. I mentioned, I don't know when I mentioned it a bunch of times. Once like a Williamsburg chassid came to the Rebbe, a Williamsburg person came to the Rebbe, and he said, I love Chabad, but I don't understand, this is years ago, why is Chabad mekarev the sinners? Why do they, the sinners, why are you bringing them closer to Yiddishkeit? So the Rebbe said to him, listen, let me ask you a question. What happens if a son or grandson of a holy tzaddik of yours, that community, goes off the derech? It goes off. Would you try to get him back? He says 100%. So the Rebbe said, why? So he said, what do you mean? They're children of tzaddikim. So the Rebbe said, every Jew is a child of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. What better tzaddikim are that? So what do you mean dump them because of Avraham? You yourself would go save your own people. So what's wrong with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? They're not as holy as your tzaddikim are. So you have to be mekadev them. That's what the Rebbe explained to this person. Okay, next. So first, you have to mechiach him, and the Gemara says it based on the pasuk the double expression teaches us afilu me'ah pa'amim, even 100 times. By the way, Poskim write that 100 doesn't mean 100 and that's it. It's just an expression. But as many times as it takes to admonish the person. But we'll learn, because we can still go. Okay, but first you have to tell him privately, you have to speak to him nicely, and you have to explain to him that you mean it for his benefit. It's not because you hate him, it's because you love him. In fact, the Mishnah says, Kshet atzmacha, b'achar kshet achedim. First you have to evaluate yourself, then you can evaluate others. In order to admonish a person, in fact the Rebbe said this many times, the prerequisite of a chiach techiachas hamisecha in Chumash is, before that the same pasuk says, Leisisna sachicha bilvavacha. You're not allowed to hate him in your heart, go admonish him. So the Rebbe explains what's the connection. He says, before you go admonish somebody, you have to first not hate him in your heart. You have to love the person. Then you have a right to admonish him. Somebody you hate, you have no right to admonish. Because you're not doing it because you really mean their benefit and you really want them to become better. You're doing it because you hate their God, so you have an excuse to admonish them. And the truth is, taking it deeper, You don't even want the person to change his ways, because then you won't have an excuse to hate him. Like this, you have a good excuse to hate him because look how bad he is. But so in other words,
but you say you're not supposed to hate.
You're not supposed to hate anybody. But once in 300 years, one person from all the Jews hates somebody. It happens. There are sinners that hate once in. It's an interesting thing. The Rebbe Rashab writes in Echolzu, which is a Hokunz of Baravis Yisrael. He writes, Sina machmas kina ein lo takana. Hatred that comes from jealousy will never be fixed. Why? It's very simple. You hit me, so I hate you. So you stop hitting me, I'm not going to hate you anymore. You messed me up, you stop messing me up, I'm not going to hate you anymore. Jealousy is so deeply rooted, that no matter what happens, you're still going to be jealous of the person. So even if whatever happened, you're never going to stop hating me because of it.